Will you actually want to see Fauci and Gates get arrested?
100%. I want to see him hung.
Them hung. Hung. For what crimes?
Treason.
Hey everybody, I am your host Elad here in New York City, where New Yorkers are protesting against Bill de Blasio's vaccine mandates. Let's go talk to some protesters, see what's going on. I see you're a person of color. The Boston mayor, who's also a person of color, said she's against the mandates because she believes it will disproportionately affect people of color. What do you think of that, and how in New York City too, people of color are amongst the least vaccinated people, and with the mandates it will disproportionately affect them? How do you think that plays into all of this?
I'm definitely seeing it. I live in the hood, and most people in the hood are not taking the vaccine, and they can't go out to eat, they can't go out and live their lives as normal, they're segregated. So we're seeing segregation again, especially among people of color.
Why do you think people in the so-called hood aren't taking the vaccine as much as people here in, lovely Manhattan?
Right, because we know the history. We've been guinea pigs for the government in the past, and we're just generally leery about anything the government is really pushing, and they're pushing it so hard. Even if you were inclined to take it, because they're pushing it so hard, people of color are saying, there's something fishy with this. We're just more on our toes when it comes to the lies and the deception.
I'm a nurse, and I have a right over my body.
Sure.
And I was not a threat during the beginning of the pandemic. Why should I be now?
Are you a New York City nurse?
Yes.
They're requiring that you guys be vaccinated or you guys lose your jobs?
Yes.
Did you lose your job over
Not yet.
Not yet? Are you willing to lose your job over this?
Yes.
I understand. Are you chastised in your work environment for not being vaccinated? Because most nurses are.
My coworkers are really supportive.
Sure. Are most of them vaccinated?
Yes. All but two of us.
Okay. So you guys are the only two holdouts. Why did you guys make the decision not to get vaccinated?
Because I have children, and I believe that God is going to protect me, no matter what.
Sure. As a nurse, you believe that?
As a nurse and as a human.
Sure. Would you recommend the vaccine for your patients who might be immunocompromised or older, those typically at risk of COVID?
I don't discourage or encourage anyone. Over my family.
Sure. This says build back segregation with Joe Biden. It says vaccinated only. Can you tell me more about the sign?
Yes, Biden promised to build back America. He said he was going to be the president for everyone, yet he's segregating people based on their decision with their body, and it's unfair.
A lot of people have criticized people for making this comparison of the mandates to segregation. Do you think that's a good comparison?
Hell yeah, I definitely do, because the vaccine mandates disproportionately affect the black community, which I'm Puerto Rican, and it affects my community the most.
I know black people are amongst the least vaccinated in New York City. We talk a lot about systematic racism. Do you think this is another form of systematic racism in our country?
It has contributed to it. Black people, myself, Puerto Rican people, have trust issues with government mandates like this.
So I know Bill de Blasio put in these vaccine mandates in place. It encouraged a lot of teachers, a lot of nurses to get vaccinated. What would you make of somebody arguing that says these vaccine mandates work?
I'm someone that's just for choice, and I do think vaccines help in certain aspects for certain people in different communities. I am someone that is not in that bracket. My age, my health, and my grandfather lives with me. He's vaccinated, and he supports this movement.
You know, a lot of our leaders, Bill de Blasio, Cuomo, Trump, Biden, said that they did get the vaccine, some on TV. Biden recently got the booster on TV. Do you believe them when they say they got the shot?
I won't categorize myself as a conspiracy theorist, but I don't believe all my politicians, let's put it that way.
They are directly trying to strip our freedom, especially Fauci.
Yeah. And how does Fauci try to infringe on your freedoms here?
I think it's clear by supporting mandating the vaccines, being the puppet master for Biden, enforcing the mandates.
We are outside CNN. What role do you think the media plays here?
Completely spreading lies among the people, completely turning their back to protests like this, and shedding light on other shit that doesn't matter, or narratives they want to push.
Are there any is there anybody in the media that you think is doing a good job covering COVID?
In the mainstream media?
Or in any media?
Mainstream media, probably not. There are independent media people that I agree with, that I align with, like Dave Smith.
Dave Smith?
A libertarian.
Is there anybody else you think's been reliable throughout this pandemic?
Tim Pool.
Tim Pool?
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's really about it.
Will you actually want to see Fauci and Gates get arrested?
100%. I want to see him hung.
Them hung.
Hung.
Hung. For what crimes?
Treason.
Treason?
Yeah.
How'd they commit treason? Because those are aggressive offenses.
Lying to the people, funding a lab in Wuhan. That now we come back and we shut down businesses in America and rob people of their livelihood, of their jobs, of their business, everything they work for. Spreading lies on all the people, including Yates. They get rich off everything, off all the vaccines, all the money that they get, all the emails they get, getting thanked for spreading the lies.
We're out here in New York City to protest against the vaccine mandates that have been in place for over a month now. Your sign here says "My Body, My Choice." Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here?
I'm out here because I feel that medical freedom is important for the future, for my children, for my future grandchildren. I want freedom to make a choice about a vaccine that is unproven, that is not shown to be safe or effective.
I see the sign is "My Body, My Choice." I was at a Women's March protest last week and they were using similar words. Are you appropriating this on purpose? And can you tell me a little bit more about that?
I'm going to put this right back to the liberal ideology of my body, my choice, for being able to make a choice about what a woman does for her body. I'm a woman. My daughter is a woman, and she has the right to make a choice about what goes into her body that is safe and effective in the same way that a woman has the choice to decide whether or not she continues a pregnancy.
So you're pro-choice as well, just because you mentioned that. I want to make sure. You're also pro-choice?
I'm not.
You're not pro-choice?
I'm pro-life,
You're pro-life.
and I'm putting
Okay.
it in their face.
Okay, interesting. As I understand, so we've had the mandates here for over a month now. What is the correct way for New Yorkers to not comply with this mandate?
That's a really hard question. I myself am under mandatory testing. I'm a teacher. I have a choice for mandatory testing.
Are you a teacher in New York City?
No,
Okay.
I'm in a suburb.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but at your schools, they're requiring you to get tested regularly if you're not vaccinated?
Yes, they are, and I've had COVID. I have antibodies. I have T cells. They don't care. I still have to be tested every week on my own dime.
Okay. Are many of your colleagues vaccinated at the school?
Not everyone. There are some, and I work with many who are not.
Okay. Are you guys ostracized for not getting vaccinated at your school? Just curious.
Yes, we're looked down upon.
Yeah.
We're looked at as we're holding up the works. We're not on board. We're not team players. We're not keeping everyone safe.
Do they say that to you, or do they imply that? Can you tell me a little
implied.
bit more about that?
It's implied, and it's definitely very strong on social media and in other, on the online modality, on the online groups.
Absolutely. I had this one question. The vaccine's obviously been very controversial. The mandates have been very controversial, but through and through the media and many in our government have been saying that the vaccine is safe. Donald Trump supposedly got the vaccine. Joe Biden got the vaccine. A lot of our leaders have gotten the vaccine. Do you believe that the vaccine is safe and our leaders have gotten the vaccine?
I don't believe our leaders have gotten the vaccine.
Okay.
I don't think they would take that chance on live TV of a possible side effect, but who's to prove it? I myself have taken ivermectin. I was prevented from getting ivermectin from my doctor for 6 weeks until I found a frontline doctor, which turned me around. I felt like I was dying with COVID for 6 weeks. Then I finally got ivermectin. So I have heard that a lot of the congressional leaders have all taken ivermectin, many of them within the last year.
Did you take anything besides, were you prescribed anything besides ivermectin when you were sick with COVID?
No, ivermectin.
Just ivermectin?
Yes.
I know in the media a lot they were chastising people who were taking ivermectin. How do you feel about that as somebody
I'm
who
very
has
angry because my local doctor told me ivermectin didn't work and she couldn't prescribe it for me. And I languished and I was sick for 6 weeks, missing work, not getting better, both my daughter and we both finally got ivermectin from a frontline doctor, a hero that I consider a hero.
Okay.
And once I got it, within 48 hours, I was feeling better.
Let me ask you this one last question. So if you did get sick with COVID and you felt very sick and you decided to treat it with ivermectin, what would you say to somebody who says you should get the COVID vaccine to prevent getting to the point where you get COVID and need to take ivermectin so you don't even need to get sick to begin with?
I would say you don't even need to get sick to begin with, and what I've learned from my doctor through the frontline doctors, flcc.net, is that you can take ivermectin prophylactically, and it has studies behind it to prove that that is extremely effective.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it so much. Thank
Very
you.
much.
So we're out here in New York City. This is an anti-mandate protest. Your sign says defund the media, the real enemy of the people. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here and what you think the media's role in all of this is?
Well, I think the media has been the real enemy of the people because all they do is lie and they censor people from telling the truth. So that's what, I'm just out here trying to bring awareness that that's not the whole truth.
Do you think the media did particularly bad covering this pandemic?
Yes, absolutely.
Who do you think some of the worst offenders are in the media?
Well, the first ones that come to mind is definitely CNN and MSNBC, and pretty much, all of them.
Yeah. There's a little bit of charged language here. The real enemy of the people. What should people do about this if the media is the enemy of the people?
Honestly, they just need to continue speaking their truth and hopefully just get louder in speaking it. And one day, people will listen. Unfortunately, with the censorship, we have that working against us right now. So, we really, we're up against the odds. But the truth rings louder than lies. So as long as we keep speaking the truth,
So I'm also media, enemy of the people. Could you tell me, is there any good media, any good media outlets that you could rely on?
There are some, but you have to really look for it. It's harder to come by. Those are the ones that you don't actually see it on mainstream. So I think the difference maybe between you and somebody else is the ones that really get coverage on the mainstream.
Can you name drop a media company that you think does a good job, maybe of covering things throughout the pandemic?
You're putting me on the spot right now.
No, because if it's defund the media and they're the enemy of the people, if there's any good media, we need to know about them. So.
Yeah, there are several. I think that I can't really name any off the top of my head, like Infowars, Joe Rogan, and there's definitely a lot of the little guys out there.
We're out here in New York City. You have a sign over here that says "Free Kyrie." This is a protest against the vaccine mandates that we have in the city. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here and about your sign?
No, I just feel like at the end of the day, he should just be given the choice to decide whether or not just to play. I just disagree wholeheartedly with the mandates. If someone wants to get the vaccine, they absolutely can get the vaccine, but it shouldn't be mandated at all. And like he even said, he was lied to in the beginning, saying that he wouldn't have to get it wouldn't be mandated for him in order to play. So I just think it's kind of ironic, for the past, I would say, year and a half, people were talking about, we have to support, in a sense, like the NBA players, giving them more of a voice in the public, and how he was so quickly turned on by the media because he obviously went against the status quo. And I feel like there's a whole bunch of NBA players that disagree with the mandates, but they want the money. They're afraid of losing their paycheck. And I feel like he's not the only one. I think Michael Beasley is still iffy on getting it.
Can I follow up with you and ask? A majority of the M players are vaccinated. I think it's something like 20 players currently who aren't. What does that say about mandates if most of the NBA players did get vaccinated? And, in New York City, the mandates are increasing some vaccination rates. When they mandated it for nurses, a lot of the nurses got vaccinated. When they mandated it for the teachers, a lot of teachers got vaccinated. What do you make to that argument that these mandates work?
I feel like at the end of the day, they were pressured to. And I feel like at the end of the day, they were looking at it from the perspective of what's best for their family. What's best for their family in order for them to provide was to get the vaccine. And I feel like that's what's kind of being manipulated, that people's principles are being somewhat turned against them. And even though there's something in their gut telling them there's something wrong, who's the NBA player that said it best, that after he got the vaccine, he's like, it's just you don't own your body anymore. He's like, he just begrudgingly just said it. And it is true, because now we just open the doors for everything. Because I find it very weird for me being here, because I'm one of the few, I guess, quote-unquote leftists, like progressives that would come here. Because I see a lot of people here, a lot of people are extremely religious, they're extremely right-wing. And because I understand there was a whole thing in Texas. I'm pro-choice. I completely despise the Texas bill. But I think what the left fails to realize is we opened up Pandora's box already now with the COVID mandates. Now, people want to argue that for a long time the government did control you, this and that. They really had to say over your body. It doesn't matter. But it's just the point now, the box is already open.
Vaccine, the mandates aside, do you believe that the vaccines are safe?
I say, I feel like it depends on the individual, because certain people's bodies, react different ways to certain things, and I feel like for certain.
Okay, so for every drug, there's 1 in 100,000 that somebody will have an adverse effect. I'm not talking about those, fringe cases. Generally, do you believe the COVID vaccines are safe?
No.
Why not?
Because the one biggest question I would like to ask the pharmaceutical company is whether or not, if they knew they had because for example, because how they're talking about the booster shots, I would like to know, no one's been asking this, if the pharmaceutical company had a vaccine that they knew, like let's just say with like polio, like say you get it once and that's it.
Tens of millions of the COVID vaccine have been administered to people in the United States and around the world. Why don't you think it's safe, given tens of millions of vaccine doses administered with only very fringe cases? There are some cases of adverse reactions, but again, these are very, very rare.
Oh, they are rare, but for me personally, I have no problem with someone getting the vaccine. It's up to them.
Sure, but you don't think it's safe?
To me, I just have questions. I guess the most mild way to put it is I just have a lot of questions. The data isn't there, and also I kind of don't like the idea of, like, let's just say they're saying someone like me, 27 years old, relatively healthy, vegan, saying that I have to get the vaccine. I don't see that at all, because if you look at the statistics, not many people in my age group died from it. So why are you telling me that I have to get it? But then even if I did get it, according to your own studies, to the CDC, I'm going to have a mild case. So what's the point of me getting the vaccine?
Why does it matter if it's safe?
Why does it matter if the vaccine is safe?
Yeah, like why does that quite, when do you believe it's appropriate to use force and violence on peaceful people?
Why do you think I don't think it's appropriate to use force of violence.
Okay, so you're okay with vaccine mandates then?
No.
Okay, then that's what people are opposed to.
I understand.
It doesn't matter if it's safe. So water is perfectly safe, right? I think it's safe. I believe water's safe. But I don't have the right to force you to drink water.
So we're out here in New York City. This is an anti-mandate protest. This says you can't inject health. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here and your sign?
I believe that our immune system is not for nothing. That it was created, and I want to help people become healthier, but not through injecting themselves with poison.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Bill de Blasio is saying that New York City went through a horrible pandemic with COVID, and tens of thousands died in the city, and he wants to strengthen their immune systems with the vaccine. That's what he'd argue. What do you make of Bill de Blasio saying that?
I think that he is nothing but a puppet, just following orders.
Yeah. And who do you think's controlling him?
I don't know. I really don't know. The people with the money. I just wouldn't know them personally.
Yeah. Do you think the vaccine manufacturers have nefarious intentions?
I say that they're drug dealers because the health used to be holistic, with the plants, with the earth. But now it's all based on petroleum, and that's good for if you're a surgeon, it's good.
Okay.
But not like this, no.
I know the FDA a few months ago approved the COVID vaccine. Does that give you any faith in it? I know the FDA approved a lot of drugs that ended up being horrible for people, but the FDA approved this a few months ago. Does that give you any faith in this vaccine?
Just the fact that you said that makes me question it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I ask you this one last thing? Our presidents, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, said they got the vaccine. Cuomo says he got the vaccine. De Blasio said he got the vaccine. Do you believe them when they say that they got that?
I don't really care who takes it, but I care that I'm not taking it because I just cannot let my DNA be changed, because I feel like the vaccine changes your DNA, because it actually says, Bill Gates told us on the Netflix documentary Pandemic that it changes your DNA and RNA. So I'm just not interested in becoming something that changes your DNA, like tomatoes, like GMO. I don't want to become a GMO.
Is there anything that could convince you that the vaccine is safe?
No.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. This is a protest against the mandates, the vaccine mandates that we have here in New York City. And this says coerced penetration is never okay. I do not consent. Can you tell me a little bit more about your sign and why you're out here?
Yeah, so I believe that medical mandates undermine female reproductive control and bodily autonomy, violates our sovereignty. And if we cannot say no to one form of mandated penetration from the government, then how can we say no to another? Interesting. So what this is teaching our young girls and our children that it's okay for their bodies to be violated as long as a so-called authority deems it true, and that they don't have any autonomy over what does and does not enter their own body.
So we've had these mandates in New York City for over a month now. What is the correct way to not comply with this?
Well, I simply don't go anywhere that requires a vaccine passport. I also don't wear a mask, and I haven't from the beginning, so it should have started with us saying no to the mask. because once they put the masks on us, that allowed the kind of blueprint for how they were going to force the vaccines.
Hey everybody, thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode. Let me know what you thought of the video down in the comments. If this is your first time here, guys, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, stay barely informed.